Hi and welcome to the second part of the flightbooker tutorial that we're building for Narratory. And if you remember where we left off, we built a simple bot that would allow you to answer yes to the question, do you want to book a flight? So I'm starting it here again in the terminal. Do you want to book a flight? Yes. Do you want to book a flight? No. So what we will do in this tutorial is to add more functionality to it so that you can not only reply yes and no, but actually give responses like I want to go to Paris, or even I want 2 tickets to Paris from Berlin, where you actually would provide all the slots that the app will need. So we will start by going to the NLU file. And here we want to create an intent that we call book flight. This is of type intent again. And the examples that we're going to add here will, first of all, have the form of I want to book a flight, but also I want tickets, or I wanna fly. So maybe these are 3 different ways of practically the same meaning here as saying yes. But now we want to be able to add, for example, the destination and the departure city. So to do that, we will use an entity. And entities are the second type of objects in the NLU part of Narratory. You can think of intents as intentions that you have when you say something. So the user wants to book a flight, or the user wants to do a booking or answer yes to a question. Entities, you could think of data points within that intent. So if you want to book a flight, then it might be relevant to the intention that you actually want to go to Paris. And entities are basically everything that you want to capture from the intent, all the data points that you're interested in. So we're going to use entities to capture the city here. So we're going to add an entities parameter to the intent. And this accepts an object, which you see with these curly brackets here. And we're going to call our city, our entity city, and we're going to use a built-in entity called GeoCity that we're importing. We're importing all the system entities here from Narratory. And this GeoCity already contains a list of a lot of different cities in the world. And now, in order to use this entity in these examples, we add some examples that use this city entity. So, for example, I want to fly to city. And now, this is not actually correct, because we have to somehow tell the system that we're actually referencing this entity up here. We're not just writing the word city. And you do that by adding an underscore in front of the word. That shows Narratory that this is in fact an entity. We will add another example. I want to go to city, and we will add tickets to city, please. Now this should be a good start for us to then add a user turn which uses this intent. So I already put the brackets here, so we can just write intent and then NLU and book flight. And we will also put just a generic answer here. For now, we will put we will just say all right. So for now, nothing special happens here. It's gonna just keep on going. No matter which of these intents that is classified, it's going to go to the goodbye turn. So what we can do is that we can add our first form filling state or turn, and we're going to call this query destination. This is also bot turn, and what we're going to use is we're going to use this state to fill in any or to fill in specifically the destination if we haven't already provided it. So the question we want to ask here is simply, where do you want to go to? All right, and the way you make sure that you only go to this bot turn if you haven't already filled in a destination is that you add a conditional, a condition, and you do that by writing cond, and then you again add an object here, comma after, and here you say, so what did we call this entity? Well, we called it city. All right, so what if we could add a condition here where city has to be false? And when we mean false here, we mean that it's not set. You could also, if you prefer, use null here, but I'm going to use false. And so this value of city is actually kept even after you exit this turn here where you might have answered book flight. And what's going to happen if you don't reach this, if you don't meet this condition, then it's just going to skip this bot turn and move to the next one. So let's add this turn. Let's add query destination here to our narrative, and then let's head over to our terminal and let's run it. And while it builds a few seconds, I will use the time here to prepare that we're going to, of course, listen to the user after asking this question, and we're going to add a destination intent here. So now that it's done, we're going to say here, I want to go to Paris. So now it said, all right, and goodbye for now. And if we run it again, and this time we say, I wanna book tickets. Now we see that it actually asks this question, where do you want to go to? So we see that it's actually working as intended. If we don't have the city, we're going to ask this question, and we can try to say yes as well. And then it says, where do you want to go to? And one thing we can do at this point is to actually look at this no intent here. If we said that we don't want to book a flight, then we should probably not go to this question. So what we can do in that case is to actually jump to the end. And we do that by providing a label on the goodbye state here. We will call it goodbye. And then in this bot turn here, instead of just using a string, we will convert it to a bot turn like that. And we will add a go to and use the same label. So we will write goodbye there again. And now what's gonna happen is that if you say no, it's gonna jump here, so it's gonna skip this one and all the other terms that we are about to add. Now let's see how we can capture the destination in this case. So let's go back to our MLU and we define a new intent called state city, perhaps, or just, yeah, I don't know, not the best name, but it doesn't really matter. So for examples, we will just add a few here. We will say from city. From city, we will say no, we're actually asking about destination. So we will say to city, and then we will say going to city, and we will also just write city here. And similar to in this intent, we need to use the same entity here. And here we then add a user term. We add our intent, which we called state city, and here, and then we add a bot reply. And here it might be a good place to actually acknowledge what the user said by stating the city again. And here we can actually do it the same way as we denote the city on the in the examples. You can use it in your bot utterances. So we can say city got it. So it will say Paris got it if we state Paris here. Now let's build it using start. And in the meantime, we can actually we can talk a bit about destination and departure, because you might wonder, but we called it city here, but what if you want to say I want to go from Berlin to Paris? Well, in that case we also need to use the city entity. And how are we going to do that? Well, there's a good solution to that, and that is to actually choose a more descriptive entity name. So we can instead call it to city here, and that allows us to also have a from city, which has the same value. And then of course we have to change our examples here to reflect on this change as well. And then in a moment we're going to add examples where you also have a departure city in the phrases. And now we can test this. So if we just say yes now, it's going to ask this question: where do you want to go to? And I will say, well, I want to go to Paris. Paris, got it. Goodbye for now. So that worked well. And if we run it again, we will say no. Then it jumps to the end. It doesn't ask this question. However, if you state I want to fly to Berlin, it's saying all right, and then goodbye for now. So we can see that we're actually getting the behavior that we want. And the only thing that we really had to do was to add this conditional here, and this more specific city intent, state city, as we choose to call it. And so this pattern is something that we're going to replicate in the coming part of the tutorial, and we're also going to add a summary state where you get to confirm your booking or to do changes to it if you want. Thank you so much for listening, and see you in the next tutorial.